Dr. Lucelena Perez. I'm the Director of State and Federal Programs. And here in Sweetwater School District, the State and Federal Program helps oversee the implementation and compliance of our ELACs, which are our English Learner Advisory Committees. So sometimes we wonder, well, when do we have to have an ELAC? And an ELAC is required by law anytime a school has 21 or more English learners. And I can tell you that in Sweetwater, that is every single school has 21 or more English learners. There might be a few exceptions depending on given years. Alta Vista Academy might not quite have the 21, or Options might not have 21, our smaller schools might not have 21. But all of our other schools we know have at least 21. So it's not a percentage, it's 21 English learners. And it's not by 21 families, it's 21 English learners. Then there's a requirement to have an ELAC. You can have an ELAC if you have less than 21. But the minute we hit 21, now we must have an ELAC in a school. ELACs have, so before I move on to that, a common question is, what about RFEP students? Do I count my RFEP students? Certain provisions of the law that cover English learners also cover reclassified students. And I would encourage schools to reach out to the families of RFEP students, in particular newly RFEP students or RFEP students that are struggling, to also participate in your ELAC. It's not a requirement, but there's certainly a student population that you're welcome to include when you're supporting your English learners. The responsibilities are to advise the principal and staff on the programs for English learners. So they are an advisory committee. The purpose of the committee is to know what programs are in place at the school and to tell the school, to advise the school on other needs they might see, or to what extent they see those needs that are those services being offered as being sufficient or insufficient. So an ELAC is not a group of parents that you bring together for you to offer them parent training. An ELAC is an advisory committee to the school. Do you see the difference? So it's not about, let's get a bunch of parents in and we're going to talk to them about how to read a transcript, or how to prepare the FAFSA, or how to know if your child is involved in drugs, or how to help your student do homework. While these are incredibly important topics for parents of English learners, that is not the sole purpose of an ELAC. The purpose of the ELAC is to advise the school on programs. So a big part of that advisory, which we look for as a legally compliant, we're going to be looking for evidence of this, is that they advise the school site council on the development of the single plan. Not after the fact. So what's really important here is your timeline. The ELAC should see the site plan before it goes for approval to the school site council. Because if it goes after the fact, then how was their advisory taken into account? So we will in a minute talk about timelines, when to present this to your ELAC. When is the right time to present which topics? So an ELAC could know, and even if you have it in a very raw draft form, you don't have to have your site plan perfect before you take it to ELAC, but you might already know, in our site plan from Title I, we're going to add additional tutors, for example, for our English ELD classes. Or we're looking at adding an additional EL resource teacher to support the English learners. Or at a Title I, we want to hire an additional counselor. Those kinds of things are things that the ELAC would want to know about. And they also want to see the data. How are English learners performing at your school site? The ELAC doesn't vote to approve or disapprove a site plan. Their role is strictly advisory in nature. So you would hold an ELAC meeting. So let's say I know that on June 2nd, my site council is scheduled to review the site plan and vote on it. At the May ELAC meeting, I should be reviewing my site plan, getting the advisory, so that I present that advisory to the school site council before the site plan is approved. So that should be that timeline, is then there's an opportunity to review the advisory from the ELAC before the final approval of the SPSA. In our district, there's a 2-window cycle on your site plans. Right now, you're writing the draft for next school year, and then you'll write a final version sometime around November. Prior to those 2 meetings would be a great time to talk to your ELAC. Another great time to talk to your ELAC is before you approve a Title I carryover plan. Then that's all going to be folded into your site plan, right? So you want that. What if you're not a Title I school? You're not attributing Title I dollars, and your school site council doesn't approve anything, because school site councils can only approve federal dollars. You still need the advisory of your ELAC to be included in conversations around your site plan. It's just no one's ever going to vote at a school site council meeting, because the only thing you vote on are federal funds at a school site council meeting. So I'll pause for a minute. Are there any questions on the role of advisory and what the ELAC requirement is around advisory? Okay. Yes?
So within the timeline, I'm trying to think, because we had our ELAC meeting where we reviewed programs that were, specifically targeted for English learners. And we kind of, we went through the goals and saw like what worked, what didn't work. We gave them data. And then from there, they advised us as to what programs should continue, what new initiatives. But they won't see the new site plan. So is that enough input?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because so the question was, if they give the advisory and you wrote it all down, but they haven't seen the final version, is that okay? Yes, because what they're doing is giving you advisory on the development.
Right.
While it's not a legal requirement that the ELAC also participate in the evaluation of your site plan, it's not a bad idea to include them in that cycle as well. Towards the end of, like we just did, the evaluations of our 16-17 site plan, you could certainly have that conversation with your ELAC as well. In a minute, we will talk about, well, how do I document that? It has to be very explicitly laid out in both your agenda and the minutes. So what it can't read is, the ELAC took a look at our site plan, or the site plan was presented to the ELAC and the ELAC agreed. That is not meeting this compliance piece at all. Meeting this compliance piece is the ELAC advised that under Goal 2, there be more money for parents to attend conferences. That would be direct advisory. And then the site plan, the school site council minutes would need to read, ELAC recommendations were reviewed and the following decisions were made. The school will allocate an additional $1,000 towards parents attending conferences, or no additional funding at this time is available to send parents to conferences. So do you see that just because the ELAC asked for it doesn't mean that the school site council has to approve it, but it's in the minutes that the school site council heard that advisory and did something with it. So we're always looking for that straight line between what did they say, what did they ask for, and what did the school site council say about it. We will be looking very, very closely for compliance on this piece. The other thing that the ELAC does is assist the school, and here's that key word again, the development of the school-wide needs assessment. Your schools do needs assessments. They come in different flavors and different sizes. We'll probably be moving in the future to a more systematic approach to those needs assessments. To meet this requirement, what you would want to do is at the very beginning of the school year, show your needs assessment to your ELAC and ask them, are we asking the right questions? So for example, I did this year with our DLAC. I met with 4 DLAC members. I showed them, we reviewed the entire Hanover survey, which for our district serves as a needs assessment, and the DLAC recommended a few additional questions. For example, they recommended that from demographic data, a parent could select if they were the parent of an English learner, because then we could disaggregate the data by parent of English learner. They also asked that an additional question be added around how parents felt the progress towards English language development was going at the school. They actually asked us to add probably upwards of 10 to 12 additional items. Of those, maybe 3 or 4 went into the revised Hanover. Did we meet that the DLAC assisted in the development of the needs assessment? Yes. So it could be that your ELAC says, every question here is fine and we do not see the need to add more questions. So what do you put in your minutes?
Exactly what you just said.
Exactly that. Needs assessment, what was reviewed during the development of the needs assessment. The next critical ELAC responsibility is that they advise the school on ways to make parents aware of the importance of regular attendance. So you would review with your school's ELAC your attendance. I advise that you look at real-time attendance, not Saturday recouped attendance. So this is actual seat time in class. And as always, what the ELAC is interested is in your disaggregated data. So how is English learner attendance compared to everybody else's attendance? At your schools, you may want to even disaggregate that further and say, here's attendance for new arrival students, the STELs, and here's our attendance for our LTELs versus the whole rest of the school. Here's where you're asking the parents, you as a parent of an English learner, what do you think we could do to raise awareness across the school of the importance of attendance? And you listen to all their ideas, and that might help you change some of the approaches that you take to informing parents of the importance of regular attendance. So again, here, you're asking them to advise you on better ways to make parents aware of regular school attendance. And these are all straight from Ed Code, by the way. All of these came straight from the federal government. In addition to the federal requirements, there are state requirements for parent involvement. So the LCAP requires the English learner parents as well to participate. So our DLAC at the district serves as our parent advisory committee for English learners towards the LCAP. So when you send us your representative, that's how your school gets represented from the English learner standpoint. And that's all part of the State Board of Education parent involvement policy as well.